You're stuck in traffic right now. 40 minutes for 3 miles. The car in front of you hasn't moved in 6 minutes. A machine worth $30,000, engineered by thousands of people across 100 years, is currently doing 0 miles per hour. 10,000 years ago, your ancestors walked everywhere they went, with no wheel, no axle, and no idea any of this was coming. So how did we get from bare feet to bumper? The wheel itself took forever. Mesopotamia gets credit around 3,500 BC, but that wheel wasn't for travel. It spun clay on a potter's table. Someone had to notice a spinning disc could also carry weight and roll. That leap took another few hundred years, and humans invented pottery before they invented commuting. For most of history, if you wanted to go somewhere fast, you needed a horse, or legs, or a very patient camel. Then, in 1769, a French army engineer named Nicolas Joseph Cognot built something new. A steam-powered tricycle meant to haul artillery. It weighed about 2.5 tons and moved slower than a brisk walk. Cognot's machine also holds a less flattering record. Within its first test drives, it crashed into a stone wall. That is the first car crash in recorded history, and cars did not even exist as a category yet. Steam power stuck around for decades, clanking and hissing its way through prototypes nobody wanted to sit near, since some of them exploded. The real shift came from a different kind of engine, one that burned fuel in small controlled explosions instead of boiling water in a tank you were sitting on top of. In 1885, a German engineer named Bertha Benz finished a vehicle he called the patent motor wagon. 3 wheels, a single-cylinder engine, top speed around 10 miles per hour, so long as the road stayed flat and the wind cooperated. Benz patented it in January 1886. That document, number 37,435, is treated today as the birth certificate of the automobile. Bertha Benz built the machine. His wife Bertha made it famous. In August 1888, without telling her husband, Bertha took the motor wagon and drove 65 miles to see her mother, with her 2 teenage sons riding along. There were no highways yet, no gas stations, and barely a plan beyond reaching her mother's house. She bought fuel from a pharmacy along the way, since Ligroin, a cleaning solvent, was the only flammable liquid anyone had on hand. When the fuel line clogged, she cleared it with a hairpin. When the brakes wore down, she had a shoemaker nail leather onto them, inventing the brake pad on the spot. When a wire touched another wire and sparked, she used her own garter as insulation. She reached her mother's house that evening, and the trip became the reason people started believing this contraption could actually go somewhere real. Carl found out where his car had gone from a telegram. Marriage in 1888 apparently ran on trust and slow mail. Governments had no idea what to do with these machines. Britain passed the Locomotive Act, nicknamed the Red Flag Act, which required any self-propelled vehicle on public roads to be preceded by a man on foot waving a red flag. The speed limit sat at 4 miles per hour in the country, and 2 in town. A machine built to outrun a horse was legally required to follow a guy walking in front of it. The first speeding ticket on record went to a man named Walter Arnold in Kent in 1896. He was clocked going 8 miles per hour in a 2-mile-per-hour zone. A policeman on a bicycle chased him down for 5 miles before making the arrest. The bicycle caught the car. Let that sit for a second. Cars back then belonged to people with serious money. Henry Ford wanted to change that math entirely. In 1908, Ford released the Model T at $850, already cheaper than most of its competitors. Then, in 1913, his factory in Highland Park, Michigan, introduced the moving assembly line. Build time for a single chassis dropped from about 12 hours to 93 minutes. By the mid-1920s, the price of a Model T had fallen to $260, and Ford was selling more than half the cars in America. Ford is often quoted saying customers could have any color they wanted, as long as it was black. The real reason was faster drying paint on the assembly line. Nobody at the factory cared what color you dreamed about. They cared about keeping the line moving. The car had promised something specific. Go anywhere you wanted, whenever you decided, answering to nobody. Highways spread across entire countries throughout the 20th century, cutting straight through neighborhoods that had existed for generations, all in service of that promise. You're sitting in traffic that takes longer than the walk would have taken your ancestors 10,000 years ago. There are more than 1.4 billion cars on the planet today. Los Angeles alone has enough parking spots to cover the entire city of Manhattan twice over, and drivers there can spend dozens of hours a year just circling the block looking for a single spot. Cugnot built a machine that crashed into a wall on its very first outing. 250 years later, we are still crashing into the same wall, just slower, and with better cup holders. The invention worked exactly as designed. It moved us forward. Nobody promised it would also make us free. Cugnot's tricycle lost to a wall in 1769. In terms of car versus obstacle, the scoreboard has not improved by much since.